Okay, Mayor, the meeting is yours.
All right, thank you very much. We certainly want to welcome everyone to the Vinton Town Council meeting for this Tuesday, August 18th. And with that, I will turn it back to you, Susan, for some information.
All right. First, I'll have roll call of council. Councilmember Lyles.
Here.
Councilmember Mullins.
Here.
Councilmember Stovall.
Here.
Vice Mayor McCarty.
Here.
Mayor Gross.
Here.
We do have a quorum of council. Town staff that are present: Pete Peters, Susan Johnson, Ann Cantrell, Donna Collins, Chief Fabricio Drummond, Anita McMillan, Brandon Gann, Nathan McClung. Also present, Jeremy Carroll, our town attorney, and Debbie Adams with the Vinton Messenger. I would like to confirm that our meeting is being held in accordance with Town Ordinance Number 1016 and Amendment 28 to House Bill 29, adopted at the 2020 reconvened session of the Virginia General Assembly, and everyone present is participating by electronic means. Mayor, the meeting is yours.
Again, welcome everyone that's online, and good to see all of you folks. Next, we'll have our moment of silence here in the town of Vinton. We use a moment of silence so that everyone can pray as they see fit. If you pray during this time, and I hope you will, I plan to, would ask you to keep our country and our community and certainly the council meeting tonight in your thoughts and prayers. I will close that moment of silence. After that, we will ask Council Member Lyles to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And I guess we can attempt to stand for that. I think we will have the flag on display, I believe. Isn't that correct? Well, okay. All right. So if you folks will stand for the moment of silence and the pledge, please. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for bringing us here tonight. We just want to lift our country and our community in this meeting to you and just ask for your continued blessing and protection. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic stands under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Got it.
There we go. All right. Thank you, folks. Appreciate that. Sometimes all that gets a little awkward online, but I think it's good that we honor both God and our flag in our opening procedure. Upcoming announcements. Our Vice Mayor, I believe, has got some information for us.
I do. We have several Mingle at the Markets coming up. August the 22nd is 7 Mile Ford. September the 12th is Hard Drive Crew. September the 26th is Adam Rutledge. And I also received some information. I'm assuming that the Chamber will still be doing the golf tournament on September the 17th.
Yeah, let me, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's all I have, unless somebody else does.
Okay.
Yeah, I just, actually I met with Angie a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about that. And, you know, naturally I've reached out to about a dozen, because I told her that I would assist her and Councilmember Lyles, and I talked about it, but I've reached out to about a dozen businesses just for the purpose of donations. And then they just, you know, naturally you can understand them saying, you know, we'd love to, but we feel like in 2021 we'd be able to have a bigger, you know, be able to do something. So I even said something to her about possibly postponing it. We're going to see how many teams we'll get until possibly the Saturday before the Dogwood Festival, or the Sunday before the Dogwood Festival, kind of tied into the Dogwood Festival week. in the spring, because we've always had it in the fall. So anyway, that's a little update, just to kind of see where we are with that going forward.
Okay, thank you for that update. Kind of hard to plan a lot these days, so we will just have to kind of take it as it goes as far as planning and events go. Next item is a request to postpone or change the order of the agenda. Any changes tonight?
Mayor Gross, I'm not aware of anything that needs to be adjusted.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, we will move to the consent agenda. Tonight it contains two items. The first is the minutes of the regular council meeting of July 2020. Also, the resolution that would approve the amended Title VI of the Civil Rights Act implementation plan. Are there any corrections or additions? Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Very good. I'm sure that was everyone. I don't see anything listed for awards. So Susan, I wanted to check with you about citizens' comments or petitions. Have you received anything prior to this meeting?
You're on mute.
Sorry. No, Mayor, no requests for this meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. I also do not see anything listed for the town attorney. I think I saw Jeremy sign on, did I?
I'm here.
All right. Good to have everyone here. With that, we will move on to the town manager section. Pete, it is all yours, my friend.
Thank you, Mayor Gross and Vice Mayor McCarty. We have three items this evening. We have one briefing, and I will turn the first briefing over to Brandon Gann, who will provide an update on the purchasing policy. Brandon?
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. I'd like to take this opportunity to brief you on the proposed changes to the purchasing policy. The current policy has not been revised since 2013. The changes that are being proposed will assist departments with efficiently and effectively making smaller purchases in a timely manner. Current purchase levels can be quite restrictive and somewhat cumbersome when making smaller purchases. Oftentimes, the benefit received from collecting multiple quotes on smaller items does not outweigh the cost and staff time in seeking out those additional quotes. I've prepared a PowerPoint to showcase the changes to the small purchase thresholds.
Hey, Brandon, you're on mute.
Sorry, did that switch over when you went to share screen, or? Sorry about that. Okay, so level one, previously, or our current purchasing policy is $1,000 or less. You're not required to obtain a quote. So basically you would just purchase what you would need that falls under that $1,000 threshold. We're proposing to move that $1,000 threshold up to $5,000, which you could purchase without obtaining more or multiple quotes. So just one quote. It's under $5,000. You can move ahead with purchasing that. All right, the second level, small purchases. This was originally $1,000 to $10,000. You obtained two quotes. We're wanting to move that $5,000 to $20,000, which would allow you to purchase within that level by obtaining two quotes, either by telephone, written, catalog, or electronic quotations. Level three currently is $10,000 to $30,000. You're required to obtain three quotes. We would like to move that to $20,000 to $50,000 by obtaining three quotes: written, electronic, email, telephone. All right, and the final level of small purchases, it was $30,000 to $50,000, four quotes. Now we're wanting to move that to 50,000 to 100,000. 100,000 is the level at which large purchases or formal bidding would require us to take place. So anything that we make, we can make adjustments to our policy to anything under $100,000. So we're actually wanting to bump that up this time to where we can actually do that with getting 4 quotes obtained the same way, written, electronic, by telephone. And we're currently not wanting to make any changes to professional services or our large purchase policy, which large purchase policy is guided by the state under the VPPA. Are there any questions?
I don't have any.
Mayor Gross, I would like to add that this item was discussed at the Finance Committee this past. I failed to recognize the date, but I'm sure Ann's going to discuss that in a few moments. But I believe that it was the recommendation of the Finance Committee to make these amendments, and the Town Manager's Office would certainly support the move.
Yes, it was. And I'm sorry, I meant to comment on that also. And so I guess this will appear on the agenda at the next council meeting. Is that correct?
Correct.
That is correct.
Okay. All right.
Okay. The next item, this is an item that actually requires action this evening. This is a consideration of adoption of an ordinance to permanently vacate a right-of-way near the Longwood Apartments. And I will ask Principal Planner Nathan McClung to provide this update to council.
Thanks, Pete. Unlike my screen is showing, so I'm reporting from my better half's laptop tonight. I'm not Christina. Like I said, I'm Nathan McClung. So just get a background of what happened with this alley. So the original plat for the Midway Land Company was back in 1889. And so with that, you can see that on one of your attachments on the left-hand side is that plat showing all the blocks that made up the subdivision. So we're paying particular attention to block number 5. So after many years, in 1977, a few of those alleys in that subdivision were to be vacated. And in block 5, the north to south alley, which ran from Hill Street to Vale Street. You'll notice that some of these street names don't correspond with the present day because they were changed before or after the plat was created. But the north to south alley was vacated by ordinance number 381 in 1977. Fast forward to the present day, last year or early this year, the current property owner, Longwood Apartments, who acquired the property in 2013, they were seeking to sell it, but a title search came back and they couldn't find any concrete proof that the alley running east to west had been vacated, which after pulling back up the ordinance from 1977, there really is no evidence, even though it was written on the plat as vacated. It never was properly vacated by ordinance. So they're hoping to sell this property. And Jeremy assisted with trying to find the best means to do this, especially since the current property owner owns all of the lots or owns the entire extent of block 5. So the best means of doing this would be to use this town code section or state code section that just requires the surrounding property owners that are a part of this plat to sign the deed of vacation. And that was the option that we are currently recommending. A deed's been produced, and also, even though a resolution would have been sufficient, we actually drafted an ordinance for tonight that would be acceptable to close this alley officially and forever, so that in 2077 it doesn't come up that we did not close the alley tonight. But that's an overview. Really, there's been development, there's been parking lots put over this, there's been apartment buildings built in this block. On your first attachment, you'll find a survey showing exactly where the alley is located. It's 12 feet in width and about 200 feet long. This survey will be attached to the deed, and with the deed being signed by the property owners and the mayor, then it'll move forward and be officially closed indefinitely, or forever. And the land will go to that property owner. So that's all I have.
Mr. Mayor, one thing I would add, because we're using the procedure 15.2, 2272.1, and a single property owner owns all the property around the vacated alley, we do not have to have a public hearing under that procedure. Just wanted to let you know that.
Okay. Okay. Yes, thanks for clarifying that. Okay. All right. Any questions or comments? All right. If not, Council, you have before you an ordinance, as you just heard described concerning the property associated with Longwood Apartments. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll second.
All righty. I think the motion was by Keith, if I heard correctly.
That's right.
All right. And the second, Lori, was that you? I'm not sure.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Susan, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Lyles,
Yes.
Councilmember Mullins,
Yes.
Councilmember Stovall,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McCarty,
Yes.
Mayor Gross.
Yes. Ordinance passes. Back to you, Pete.
Okay, well, the last item requiring action this evening is consideration of adoption of a resolution for the new Town of Vinton Employee Handbook, and I'll ask our HR and Risk Management Director, Donald Collins, to provide that update to Council.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor McCarty, and members of council. So at the last meeting, I presented to you the draft of the employee handbook. The previous handbook was updated in November of 2008. This update takes into consideration new laws and requirements that are current to 2020. We worked on it with the leadership team as well as Town Attorney Jeremy Carroll on his feedback. And there was one addition to the original draft that was sent out. We added, in 2001, Town Council approved an employee service recognition policy. And it wasn't previously in the handbook. After some discussion, we decided to put it in the addendum section. So it appears as addendum number H. And it's simply a policy outlining what employees are entitled to if they should retire after so many years of service with the town. And if you have any questions or comments, then I can answer. I'll be happy to do so.
Thank you very much. Council, any questions or comments? Thank you, Donna, for that information. If there are no questions, we will consider a motion to adopt the resolution concerning the new Town of Vinton Employee Handbook.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve by Councilmember Mullins. Was the second by Councilmember Stovall?
It was.
All right. Susan, if you would call the roll, please.
Councilmember Lyles,
Yes.
Councilmember Mullins,
Yes.
Councilmember Stovall,
Yes.
Vice Mayor McCarty,
Yes.
Mayor Gross.
Yes. Thank you very much, Council. The resolution passes. And so back to you, Pete, please.
Okay, I just have two quick items, or fairly quick items, under the manager's update. First, I wanted to let council know that unfortunately, the town did not receive a grant award from Department of Housing and Community Development for the Cleveland Neighborhood Housing Rehab Grant. We did submit that back in June of this year. We worked on that pre-planning grant for a couple of years. And we have heard back from DHCD that we had a strong application, but they had a reduced funding amount due to reallocating some funding towards other COVID-related response. So they offered, I believe it was 7 awards for approximately $7 million. And the town had actually applied for $1.4 million of that total award. So They encouraged us to reapply, and I have discussed it with Anita and Nathan in the planning office. And Nathan has reached out to DHCD to request a debriefing, which would be a follow-up to review our application, and in hopes that we could gain some insight on where we could make some improvements and be more competitive at the next grant cycle. They do anticipate a October second round application cycle based on funds that were not used throughout the year. So they kind of pool those resources and do a second annual open date for applicants. And then there'll be the typical application cycle that is normally held in March. This year it was delayed because of COVID. So our intent is to reapply, and this is pretty standard. Our first application for this type of grant. Not discouraged about it whatsoever. We have a strong application, we have a strong project, and we've heard as such, and we will proceed to reapply in the future. And I have every confidence that our staff will pull together a good application and will be successful and provide some needed housing rehab in that neighborhood and others in the future. So I just wanted to update council on that. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those before I move on to the next comment. Okay. The second item is I wanted to provide a brief update on the CARES Act funding. Staff has been working extremely hard on pulling this together. As you know, we received notification that we were receiving this funds not too long ago, and then just within the last 2 weeks, we were notified that we were receiving another round of funding. So in total, we've been provided as a subrecipient via Roanoke County, a total of approximately $1.4 million to address needs and items within our community to respond to COVID and be prepared and be able to provide services and during this pandemic and prevent or be able to operate in the future should this continue or have another round. So, like I said, staff has been working extremely hard, and this has touched every aspect of our local government, and our staff has really done an amazing work. Particularly, I wanted to point out a couple of key individuals, but this is certainly not everyone that's been involved, but Ann and Brandon in the finance office. They've been working through the procurement needs, establishing the process to work with Roanoke County. Because Roanoke County is the recipient of the grant funds and we're the subrecipient, they were approving all of our purchases. So there's a necessary process for us to receive that prior approval and then submit the invoices to them, and then they're paying that on our behalf. So that's an extra round that we didn't anticipate, but it's working well in the finance office, and Ann particularly has been heading that up. And we've been working on getting pre-approval through auditors and also other peer groups in the state to make sure that the projects that we're working on do meet the requirements of the CARES Act, because it is fairly restrictive on what items we can use for the funding for. So it has to be directly related to prevention or response of COVID. And so it's not just what we need, and we can't use it for revenue replacement. So it's pretty particular on what we can use the revenue or the proceeds of the grant for. And then Brandon, his work on the procurement, there's been a lot of extra layers of going through the procurement. As you just heard in the purchasing manual, it can be fairly tedious. So he's been a big help there. Donna in the HR risk management, she's been doing an amazing amount of work, a great job of coordinating this above and beyond her duties to coordinate all the vendors and just kind of keeping track of the different projects we're working on. And she continually updates the process to where we are in different stages. One of the key components to this is currently we have to complete and have spent the funding by December 30th. So you can imagine to do something, it's a fair bit amount of money, and to actually get the vendors, vet that it is eligible expense, and then actually get it into the works before December 30th is a chore in normal circumstances, much less in the environment that we're operating. So I just wanted to recognize Donna's work in this realm as well. And then our public works staff, Bo and others, meeting with contractors to make sure we have proper estimates for particularly some of the building rehab and remodel projects that we're trying to work on. So I won't go into all the specifics, but I just wanted to highlight a couple. And I think most of you have heard some of these projects already, but I'll just refresh quickly. There will be more information as we vet and validate some of these expenses. So some of the easy ones were some of the PPE and cleaning activities that we took place early on in the process. We are splitting some of those expenses with FEMA as well as some of the CARES Act funding. We're doing some additional dividers for our frontline staff so that there's some separation barriers to protect them and the citizens from that potential exchange when we're doing business, typical business. And I'll talk about a couple of specifics. For example, in the Public Works office, we're renovating the locker rooms to provide some separation and some barriers amongst our staff as they're coming and going throughout the day, reporting for work and then leaving for the afternoon. At the War Memorial, for an example, we're hoping to install a generator that can act as a future shelter that the town could open in necessary inclement weather or otherwise. And that generator is going to be able to provide us the opportunity to do that independent of relying on another building in the town or in East County. We can operate it solely at the town's discretion. An example in PD is there are some renovations within their locker rooms and some of their common spaces. If you've been in the PD, you know that it is a hub of activity and there's a lot of bodies operating in that fairly small space. So we're trying to do some separations there to protect our employees during their coming and going throughout the day. And then admin, council chambers is getting a refresh. We're replacing some of the chairs and some of the carpet and some of the fixtures so we can adequately clean that public space. As we have citizen meetings or we have council meetings and we have a lot of activity and a lot of people coming and going in that space. So we're preparing that so that we can adequately clean that in between meetings. There is a significant upgrade with our financial software. And again, I want to get into overabundance of details in that, but we are antiquated in the financial software that we have within the town. And this opportunity will allow us to upgrade that and be more efficient at teleworking so that we can work remotely if necessary, or in a sense of an emergency, we can still conduct business. We are purchasing some laptops and some other apparatus so that we can, again, assist with teleworking. So we don't have to be in the building to still provide the services to the community. And some of the later additions that we've added, we're considering what we can do with meter replacement and adding the radio read antennas for what we had already worked on to upgrade our utility system so that we could not have to visit the sites or visit the residents or visit the meters, specifically individually. We could do that remotely. And these radio read towers and these new meters will be more efficient, but also allow us to read these remotely. And again, improve that opportunity for us to do it from home or do it from a secure location and not risk the employee or otherwise with reading those meters. And then we are also considering, you may have seen this with Roanoke County just this past the council or a board meeting, they're considering some hazard pay that is eligible for CARES Act funding. So we are going to be pursuing that in the next couple of weeks of creating a plan where perhaps we can use some of the CARES Act funding to recognize and reward some of our employees who are on the front line delivering services during this difficult time. So again, that's not everything, but that's just kind of some higher level details. And during Ann's Finance Committee report, she may provide a few more comments that if I've overlooked something obvious. But before we proceed, I'll be happy to answer any questions you have, but I hope that provides you with at least a high level understanding of what all the staff been working on lately.
Okay, thank you very much, Pete. Councilor, you have any questions or comments at this time? No? Okay, we will move on. And Pete, it looks like you're up again under our reports from committees of the Economic Development Committee.
Sure. We had a Finance Committee meeting just last week. It was August 12th. And the impetus for the Finance Committee meeting was that we received a solicitation from an adjacent business owner to the town of Benton, inquiring the council's interest to sell a piece of property. It's a vacant lot that sits in between the municipal building and that existing business. I have a couple of renderings that I'll share with you momentarily, just to give you something to visually understand what we're speaking about. But this is just a small kind of visual aid of what a potential concept of that space may look like. So it's just actually they're petitioning to be a brick paver patio with a covered awning, so it can be closed during weather. There would be an exterior kitchen and some to-go order windows so that they can service customers on the fly. And that has been a big increase in their business during the COVID situation. So they're incorporating that. So it's utilizing a public space for an expansion of an existing downtown business. So the Finance Committee, or excuse me, the Economic Development Committee provided me with some feedback on that. And I have reached back out to the business owner who's proposed this expansion and provided our comments, and they're considering those. And I hope to bring this back to council in the future for your consideration, whether or not we want to move forward with an agreement and hopefully to help this business expand.
Oh, great.
Yes. And the next item is I just provided a quick update on the Gish's Mill project. So I wanted to provide this just again, another opportunity to show the potential changes of this project. But we have worked, Nathan has done an incredible job, but there's been, again, a number of departments that participated in this with the Public Works Office and their utilities and the Finance Office and helping us crunch the numbers and some of the previous investments we've made in this site. But the Planning and Zoning Office, Anita and Nathan both have contributed immensely in preparing these grants that we've submitted. We submitted a $250,000 grant application in June for a DHR grant to help us stabilize this structure, and then an IRF grant that you all are familiar with at this point. It's a $600,000 application for a grant, but it will be administered in the form of a loan to the developer to help rehab and renovate the space. So we anticipate notification about these two grants in the fairly near future. We don't have a specific date. It is contingent to the governor making the announcement. So keep your fingers crossed. Say a prayer for us that this project rises to the top and we'll get some consideration. If we were to receive these funds, it would almost assuredly allow us to move forward with the project. And we're optimistic that we'll get the funding, and maybe in January or February, we can start some construction activities.
Awesome. That sounds very exciting. It's great.
And then I just provided an opportunity of an update on the Vineyard Station project. I believe most of you drive by this pretty consistently. You see the progress. So it's a kind of more easy to see what's going on there. This is the rendering from the front or the Pollard side. There has been some architectural changes since this rendering was provided, but essentially it's still plans to be much like what you see on the screen now. You can recently see the brick being removed and making preparation for those windows to be installed above the front door. The back of the property has received its brick facade. The front has yet to receive its brick facade, but it will get a slightly different color than the back half. Almost all of the kitchen and restaurant has been completed. I was in there yesterday with the restaurant owner, and he gave me a firsthand tour of the kitchen and all his operations, and he's very excited about it. We are still on budget and on schedule. There's been a few slight modifications here and there, but like I said, the restaurant is almost fully complete to the point that Planning and Zoning has been reviewing signage approvals, and you will start seeing parking lot improvements, curb and gutter being placed in the parking lot, pedestals for lights. Those will start going up in the next couple of weeks, and they are anticipating paving and planning all the landscaping in late September. The owner of the restaurant is considering renting some space in the town at the War Memorial to do a job fair. He's looking to hire 35 to 40, maybe a few more employees. So he will be that opportunity will start just after Labor Day for folks seeking employment in that establishment. And there are a number of additional tenant negotiations underway for the space you see here on your screen, as well as the former Parks store component. So a lot of activities went on, but there's a lot more to come. And there's some of just a rendering of the restaurant's name, and some of the concepts of what the awnings and the gooseneck lamps will look like on the outside of the property. Wow. And many of you have seen what's happened with the pedestrian access points. This connects the parking lot of Vineyard Station to Lee Avenue. And there's lots more of this to come with areas behind Cundiff Drug and the alley that will connect to Pollard. So this is just a sneak peek or sample of what you might see coming in the coming weeks. And then the last item was an update on the Billy Bird Annex. We is through the EPA grant, assessment grant, we have started to conduct the environmental phase 1 lead paint and asbestos survey for that site. We have received a few preliminary inquiries on that property. And this is the lower annex that's at below the Billy Bird apartments, kind of between the apartments and the athletic fields. And so we're using the EPA money to get that assessment done in hopes that that will provide some information that the developer would want to move forward and submit a formal proposal on that property. So to other members of the Econ Dev, I keep saying finance, to the other members of the Econ Dev committee, do you have anything to add, or did I miss anything obvious?
Nope. Good job, Pete.
Thank you, Pete.
Exciting times.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. I think that's all I have.
All right. Thank you very much, Pete, for that report. And as Councilmember Lyles just said, exciting times. I think a lot of great things are happening in Benton. So future looks bright, to say the least. And with that, we'll move on to our next committee report, the Joint Public Safety Highway Safety Committee. Chief Drummond, I think you're going to do that tonight, aren't you?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council. Today, this Highway Safety Committee meeting was predicated on a traffic concern by a resident of 130 Cedar Avenue. And the request was to have stop signs placed at the intersection of both 2nd Street and Cedar and 2nd Street and Cleveland Avenue, which would make both of those intersections 4-way stop signs. During that meeting, several department members and some expert matters discussed some of the issues as far as the roadway goes. I myself represented the police department and discussed the statistics as it applies to the intersection in question, predominantly the Cedar Avenue, 2nd Street area. Items covered as part of the briefing was the speeding, motor vehicle crashes as it pertains to the area in question, and also the Vinton Police Department installing electronic speed limit signs on 2nd Street. Public Works Director Joey Heiner discussed the recent enhancements that you'll see on your screen for the roadway on 2nd Street. The Public Works Department undertook the following roadway improvements, which were double yellow striping, which are all through 2nd Street from Walnut all the way to Virginia Avenue. 2 additional speed limit signs on 2nd Street facing both directions, and stop bar signs on 2nd Street on Virginia and Walnut Avenue. VDOT representative, Mr. Varney, he discussed roadway safety as well, which he included driver behaviors and tendencies along with citizen accountability. And this was more or less illustrating that generally an installment of 4-way stop signs does not really alleviate the problem or the concern that a resident may have, but may actually stress the issue further, increasing traffic relevant concerns. So at the conclusion of the meeting, the Public Safety Highway Safety Committee desired that pneumatic strips be placed on both 2nd Street and 3rd Street to measure the quantity of traffic on the roadways. I've communicated with VDOT, and they will be installing for a week pneumatic strips on both 2nd Street and 3rd Street, considering they're both truck routes, so we can compare and contrast both streets with speed, traffic count, and volume. And from right now, it's going to be for a whole week, 7 days, so we can measure all the weekdays and weekends, and we can go from there. I can answer any questions if you have any.
Council, any comments or questions? I might mention one thing, Chief, that you mentioned, because for guys like me that aren't trained professionals, it very often seems like four-way stops would be an enhancement to safety, but I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that statistics bear out that in fact four-way stop sign intersections aren't really very safe and sometimes can cause huge problems. You mentioned that, but I just wanted to confirm. I think I've heard that in the past in some of our meetings. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That was one talking point that was highlighted during the committee. You're correct that it doesn't actually alleviate the problem. It actually creates more of a problem because now you're introducing more traffic mechanisms to the roadway.
Yeah. Like I say, sometimes to the novice like me, it would seem like that'd be the way to go, but I understand it's proven not to be the fact. Okay, thank you very much for that report. Council, any comments or questions? No. All right, good job. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, and with that, we'll move to the Finance Committee report. And I believe you're going to do that this evening. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of council. I have a brief PowerPoint I'd like to share with you. Okay, so the Finance Committee just met last week, and we reviewed several things at our committee. We had the May 2020 financial statements, the optional insurance for water and sewer lines, third party that offers this. We reviewed the water cutoff program. We reviewed CARES Act expenditures, and we also talked about the town purchasing policy that you all were briefed on tonight. And so first I'd like to get into some of the details for May. We did a high level review in the committee, and I'm going to keep it more high level for the meeting here tonight. But as of May, revenues in the general fund were at 100% of budget. The expenditures were at 95%. The grant fund revenues were at 7%. Expenditures were at 14%. The utility fund revenues were at 103%. Expenditures at 91%. The capital fund was at 99% revenue. Expenditures at 36%. And the stormwater fund was at 100% revenue and 78% expenditure.
And you might want to do your slideshow.
Oh, it's not moving. It's moving on mine. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Let's share the screen here. Okay. Are you all now seeing the details?
Yes.
There you go.
Perfect. So in cash, general fund as of May had 1.2 million. The grant fund was waiting for reimbursement, so we were in the hole 97,000. The utility fund had 1.5 million in cash. The capital fund had 347,000. The stormwater fund had 129,000. So total cash on hand across the funds was 3.1 million. 177,000 is restricted for certain uses. And the police evidence fund, this is specifically for court cases, was 26,000 that we had in that checking account. And that's actually down considerably. During the fall last year, it was around 50,000. So we've gotten through several court cases and gotten that dispersed. For the general fund investments, we had 2.2 million. Utility fund was just under 1 million. So the total investments across the funds were 3.2 million. And cash and investments combined across all the town's funds were 6.4 million. So is there any questions before I move on revenue and expense for May? I know there is one thing I want to highlight here, and that's kind of a sneak peek that I gave the Finance Committee for June. Real estate tax, personal property tax, business license, BLF, interest, income, and sales tax all came in above budget as of June 2020. Communication, sales, and use tax, bank stock tax, pari-mutuel tax, fines, and charges for services did miss the mark in our budget. But as of today, we had appropriated $500,000 for fund balance. And it looks like we may dip into our fund balance around 300,000 or 400,000. So we're actually to the good of what we have planned on using the fund balance this year. And while I have Brandon on Zoom, I do want to highlight a little bit of what he's done. At the Finance Committee, I talked about the debt set-off program. This is something that we run in the Treasurer's office. So each November, we send a claim file to the state on people who owe us money for personal property taxes, real estate taxes, and utility bills. And when they file their state taxes throughout the year, if there's a match on that Social Security number, we actually get a hold on that refund, and we get first dibs essentially at that money if it's still owed. And so Brandon has a lot of stuff he has to do, notification letters he has to send, time windows. You have 30 days to finalize a claim and contact the customer. And so I bring that up because last year we received $48,000 in revenue from this program. And as of this year, we received $74,891, and he processed 1,465 claims, not including the probably 500 that he dealt with that had already been paid or came to pay in the office to avoid the admin fee. So really proud of those numbers.
Good job. Good job.
So after the finances, we talked about a few other things. Optional insurance for water and sewer lines. BML actually has an insurance company that they have vetted and offers something that the town kind of recommends, but we don't administer in any way. And it's an insurance program for the citizens that allows them to, if a water line breaks from the meter to the house and they have to make a repair, if they have this insurance, they can submit a claim and get reimbursed for up to the claim amount. So if their insurance is $5,000, then they can get that $5,000 to make that repair. It also covers plumbing and sewer issues, and it's 100% voluntary. It's not something they have to participate in. It's just something that we would recommend or say, yes, we've vetted this company. They're able to offer insurance in our jurisdiction. Some of our neighbors offer it. The Water Authority offers it to their customers. And so we are going to bring this to you at the next meeting as a briefing. And we're going to try to get some updated information for you. We reviewed our water cutoff program. So as a town, we're not regulated by the SCC, but we have pretty much followed what the SCC guidelines were for utilities. And so they asked not to have late payment penalties assessed and not to have utilities actually shut off. So we have followed that. However, we did talk about the fact that our cutoff list is about twice the number that it normally is. And the SCC is allowing cutoff September 1st. So our plan is to follow along with that and to begin our cutoffs at the 1st of September. Currently, we have, I think I said in the committee, $21,000 in delinquencies for 90 days. And so that's somebody who hasn't paid 2 bills for us. So 120 days. We have $21,000 outstanding. The next thing that we talked about was the CARES Act expenditures. We pretty much reviewed what Pete went over. I think Pete even took the committee members around to just kind of see a few things and talked a little bit about the process. So we're not receiving the money from Roanoke County. We're actually submitting projects to them and they are paying directly or they're reimbursing us. So we're kind of working on the cash basis of how can we send things to Roanoke County smoothly and it get approved the first time. And then lastly, we talked about the town purchasing policy. And so we also mentioned here that sometimes our policy is a bit cumbersome. When you're getting quotes on something that's $1,200, it takes more staff time to pick up the phone and call 3 vendors than it would be to just get one quote and move forward. So we feel like this is a good recommendation to save our department's time and to kind of give them a little bit more flexibility to get a project completed quicker.
Okay.
And so the last thing is we do have to make a motion on the May 2020 financial report. And that is all I have tonight. Thank you.
Okay, and thank you very much. Good report.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'll make the motion on the May 2020 report.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
and a second from Councilmember Mullins. Susan, do we do a roll call on this?
Voice vote's fine.
Okay. Everyone in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, folks. And all opposed, same sign. All right. Thank you very much. And you mentioned one thing, and I won't dwell on it because we're going to bring it up again. I think you said in September, and that's the insurance program for our citizens for plumbing facilities. I'm very, very excited about that. I think that'll be great for our citizens. So I look forward to us discussing that in detail. Will that be at our next meeting in September? Is that right? I guess we'll be.
Sorry, trying to get off mute. If we can get updated information from VML, that is our goal, to get it on the next meeting in September.
Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. Council, have any questions or comments for Ann? No. Okay, folks, under the mayor's a few very brief comments. I think I heard that cheer. Councilmember Lyles mentioned something when we were trying to decide about whether we should go back to Zoom as compared to our live meetings. And I thought it was worth mentioning tonight. I actually meant to pass this information along to him. You know, we always want to adhere to the current rules and regulations that are in effect. And in addition, we want to be safe. Of course, we want all of our staff and our citizens to be as safe as possible. So the ideal of Zoom meetings seems to be the current standard. But we had to have a few meetings in council chambers, and we may have to do that again in the near future. But the July 7th meeting was a good example. It's our organizational meeting that followed the May elections. And at that meeting, we were required to officially swear in our newly appointed and re-elected council members and mayor. And of course, they had to sign the oath of office in person. So that's one reason for that meeting. And at our July 16th meeting, it's something very similar. We had to officially swear in our new vice mayor, along with our interim police chief. So some of those things, if at all possible, we certainly need to do in person. And so we took all the precautions necessary. But hopefully, you know, we'll get this crazy COVID-19 behind us sometime soon, and we'll be able to go back to live meetings in council chambers. I certainly look forward to that. But as long as we can do this online when our business is somewhat routine and is very informational, then I think probably this is a good way to operate out of an abundance of caution. I also want to especially thank our staff during this time of COVID-19. It's been an extra burden for them. They've had to work on a lot of additional items. Pete mentioned that earlier, and I appreciate that, Pete. And I dare not to single out any particular individuals, but I know some of our departments have had to do a lot of extra work. There's been items that we had to implement immediately. So it's been an extra burden for them. So I just want to recognize that and thank our staff for the great job that they continue to do. And lastly, I just want to congratulate Councilmember Lyles on his birthday. I'm so glad that you were able to stay up this late and attend the meeting. You know, for a person of your advanced age, I imagine that's a challenge. But certainly want to wish you a happy birthday with that. And so I guess with that, we better move on to comments from the council. And we will start with our vice mayor this evening.
Yeah, I just want to, again, thank our wonderful staff for everything that they're doing, working in crazy times and still bringing great reports to our meetings. So thank you. I appreciate you. And enjoy working with you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Councilmember Mullins, do you have anything further this evening?
Oh, you're on mute, Lori.
Sorry.
No problem.
I also want to thank the town staff, especially for all the hard work with the CARES Act money and using that for desperately needed items and in this crazy time that you wouldn't really think of, and getting that going quickly and efficiently. And I'm really excited about all the new projects. Vineyard Station is just looking fantastic, and can't wait to visit all the new things there. And happy birthday, Keith. And thank you guys for keeping us all in line. And thank you to Chief Drummond doing his job very well so far, being thrown into some crazy times and stepping up and doing a great job. So thank you all.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. So we'll move to Councilmember Stovall. You have anything further this evening, sir?
I do, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of things. Y'all might not know this, but Councilmember Lyles had to apply for a permit to burn because of all the candles that he was going to put on that cake, 50 candles, and he got denied that. So anyway, I don't know if y'all knew that or not during this time. But let me first off say, and I get it. You know, I've had this conversation with different people about, you know, nationally singling out employees, but I want to take my hat off. I attended my first finance committee meeting, and to you, Ms. Cantrell, I get it, that the fact of the finance department, but you know, folks, I can tell you, we truly have a bean counter in our finance department, and you know, naturally, I'm sure that there's days that she probably upsets people. But sit there and listen to the fact of the things that she does, but all the different rocks and stones that she unturns, you know, all the way from with Brandon. You know, Brandon was there to give a great presentation to the fact of the water meters and all those different things. And then, you know, of course, to pull it all together. So I do want to take my hat off to that finance committee. I am glad that I'm on that committee, but it was truly impressive. For that, and secondly, that insurance, you know, I don't know how many people are watching. I know it looks like maybe 13 or so, but that insurance for your water is huge. You know, when you come home one day and you've got water, you know, your water meter or your water bill is up, and you find out that your water line's broke or something like that. I mean, that can be catastrophic to a lot of people. And so that, you know, that's a great point of thinking outside the box. And Chief, I did want to bring up to you, naturally I live on Mountain View Road, and I've had probably 4 people that have commented to me about speeders on Mountain View Road. I apologize, I didn't have the opportunity to call you. So, you know, I didn't know, naturally, I'll give you a call tomorrow because I'm in town for the rest of the week, but give you a call about the possibility of maybe stepping up, you know, naturally stepping up the radar on Mountain View Road because, you know, I guess because we, as my neighbor said the other day, he said, I guess because we fixed the potholes and fixed the road, now people have the opportunity to feel like, you know, it's a little better road. Anyway, I did want to bring that to you in case some of the members, in case some of the citizens are on Facebook tonight.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Mike. All right. Thank you, Mike. We certainly appreciate that. And you mentioned something there in our meeting, our finance committee meeting. Ann and Brandon talked about how they very often have to describe to people how they could check for leaks in their bathroom and everything. And I guess I shouldn't have been surprised, but actually that was not a question on their CPA exam. So I don't know if that's something all of them need to know about or not, but it's helpful in a small town.
Great point, Mr. Mayor. And Brandon, unmute your so you can tell us what was the one thing Brandon said about putting a piece of concrete in your tank and your toilet.
Yeah, I was talking about when I was in college. One of my roommates had put a piece of broken cinder block in the back of the toilet to displace water, save on the amount of water when you flush the toilet.
Yeah. So anyway, that's great. That's great.
Yeah. It might be time to move on. We'll move on to Councilmember Lyles. If you want to take one last drink of that Geritol there, my friend, maybe you'll have enough strength to deliver your comments. Sir?
What's that, Mayor? I can't hear you.
I forgot.
Now, thank you all for all of the, I guess, nice birthday wishes. I'll also echo all of the comments that everyone has said about the staff, especially during this time. You know, all the day-to-day operations that a lot of people that are behind the scenes that a lot of people don't know or take for granted that goes on, and how we've managed to stay on task throughout this pandemic has been truly amazing, the way that the staff's come together to make all that happen. So, and then last, I'll just say, you know, just very excited about all of the hard work that we've all done, the staff and everything, the positive activity going around Benton. It's transforming. Vineyard Station, every time I go by there, it's spectacular to see coming across the bridge, and just amazing. I can't wait to see what it looks like once it's all done. It's a welcoming addition to coming into our downtown, the way that transformation is going. So excited for the future, what it holds for. I think this is just a stepping stone of what's more to come within our town. So really exciting times, like we said before, for our town.
Absolutely.
If we can hurry up and end this, I got to get to bed.
We'll go take some ibuprofen. You're going to have more than 250. Everything starts hurting.
Well, you know, I think the consensus of the evening is that we all realize what a great job our staff is doing. Folks have been around Benton and in this position long enough to know that we truly do have a really powerful staff. They work hard. They're a devoted group of professionals. So I'm very, very grateful for them, and I appreciate the opportunity to serve alongside them as we serve our citizens here in Benton. Is there anything else to come before council this evening? If not, we will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
And a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye and turning off your computer. Thank you, folks. God bless.